How's it going? Good. So this is a science-y video, and it answers some of the questions that people have asked, possibly, including questions about Sasquatch and whether it's a multi-dimensional or a solid. And if I make a note and remember, maybe we'll talk about the firmament right around building blocks and cosmic radiation. So the topics for this are the scientific theory of a collapse into the second dimension, scientific labels and formulas versus observation, fundamental errors in science which make it impossible to have a working formula to define or work with the world at large, the universe, building blocks, microtubules, cosmic background radiation, ether, green dots, particles, the Anu God particle, and MK Ultra. This is a lot. This whole video comes from a conversation I had with my friend Stephanie Sar-10 earlier today. Well, these talking points are what we talked about. I got her permission to use them. So the idea of a collapse into the two-dimension, I've been saying, I have a lot of friends and sources, as you know, from many more places than I know probably, but I've been working under the understanding and teaching under the understanding that we're now in, what's up Tony, hey Marla, that we're in, on Earth is in the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension. We moved from the 3D to the 4D and the 5D back around Easter. And if I had to guess, I'd say that the Easter celebrations that I had for the goddess Ishtar, or Easter, or Nana, or Mary, or Maya, or whatever name, I think that was predetermined. I know it was predetermined. Too much happened in the days before to have it be chance, and I know what happened. So we entered 4D and 5D as a fundamental platform for Earth, and with splashes, you know, I say metaphorically, sometimes metaphorically, that I make big splashes, you know, like Nibiru, and just it takes time for ripples, especially with big splashes. I mean, big splashes, if the water moves slow, the water, you make a hole in it and it comes up, right? So it's not like you drop a pebble and the ripples go fast. If you do a cannonball into the water, it goes down and then all the water comes up, and then the water has to come back down, and it's a deeper wave, right? But it's slower moving, but it goes further. That makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. And think about it, dropping a pebble and you watch the little, the ripples go out until they disappear. And when you do a cannonball, you displace a lot of water. So I displaced a lot of energy. It was predetermined. I had to do it. And it coincided the Easter celebrations I did, which you can, if you don't know, you can look at my posts from Easter and Orthodox Easter, which I believe were the February 1st and February 8th. And on the 7th, my friend Frederick Scott did a video which showed the 7 planets, and based on my abduction back in 10/22, October 22nd of 2017, and in the Hebrew religion, I would be the Messiah, which just means master teacher. As far as I know, it just means master teacher, that coincides with the arrival of those 7 planets. And the day before the second Easter, that video emerges, and it's not coincidence. So the idea of the 2-dimensional collapse is the idea of the universe expanding. You know, the Big Bang, the universe expands, and then it cools down and retracts, you know, back into 2D. But if it's going to go to 2D, then why wouldn't it go back to 1D? But like I said, we're already in 4D, but we're talking about hard science with no God or wonder or reverence. Or maybe reverence, but not reverence for like the creator. Or maybe just a different perspective. So in the scientific idea that we go from 3D back to 2D would be the universe contracting, because it expands and then it contracts. But in my view, the universe breathes. You know, it's a breathing, living, it has a lot of life in it and within it, but there's elements, or even if we can only describe it by saying cosmic radiation, there's frequencies and aspects of the electromagnetic bandwidth and anything that has spectrums that run through all people, and that would be the breathing. You know, that would be the reason biologically that women would have the menstrual cycle, you know, and men have a hormonal cycle as well, which is 3 months long, but because we don't bleed, it's not common knowledge. So men do have a 3-month testosterone cycle in which it ebbs and flows, the same as women do. And that's important to know. So the 2D collapse would be the idea, like I said, that it's going to come back towards a singularity. And I've thought about this idea of a singularity, you know, of turning the channel and waking up, because telling you I'm the N7 Trappist-1 Hebrew Messiah was very, very, very uncomfortable for me. But everything's lined up. I mean, it's so surreal that I don't even want to get into it, because I'll just like start questioning everything in totality, and that's not really that helpful. Not when I'm doing a video anyway. So science labels. So we got words here like microtubules, cosmic radiation, the Big Bang, you know, black holes, dark energy, dark matter. There's many, right? And these are terms which we use in science for whatever reason, because they describe something that we observe. But this is not math. This, you know, scientific formulas that try to explain all of creation are going to fail you, because the variables are always changing, and the rate at which they're changing and the amount of variables, like, good luck nailing down the exact frequency of everything that you're trying to calibrate and make an algorithm based on, when most of the things that exist which they're trying to calibrate or get a read on, they don't even know exist. They're subtle energies, you know. Dark energy, like dark matter, is what they call gravity, essentially, like within a black hole. A black hole sucks in all the, they say it sucks everything in, right? So why doesn't it suck everything in? Oh, because of dark energy. Dark energy is the lattice work. So there's fundamental errors in science which are oversimplified or undersimplified, like the Big Bang. After Hawking made the Big Bang, I don't know if he even made it, but after he popularized it, last I knew, a few years ago, he was actually trying to explain space-time in such a way that the Big Bang had something before it, which totally contradicts itself. But that's what he was trying to do, just so we could explain away God. Now I can understand why Stephen Hawking would have a gripe against God. I don't know if you can too. I know I lost some of you with the religious references, but for me they're not even religious, so get over it, please. Building blocks. Alright, the building blocks. And my friend Stephanie, who I mentioned earlier, Stephanie Sartain, she was talking about the microtubules of light, which she's been photographing within the electromagnetic spectrum, essentially the refraction of light, the light turning into color, the colors in the light. And I said, yes, there's absolutely microtubules. I've photographed them many, many, many times, many at night. Take a photograph at night of the night sky, and you're going to see tubules. And I wouldn't even call them micro, but she was saying that some scientists say that the what is it, the cosmic background radiation, I knew that the microtubules, why didn't I write that down? Fundamental errors of science, building blocks, microtubules, cosmic radiation, ether, green dots, a new God particle, microtubules. Oh, he was, some in science say that the microtubules can form together and create a shape or something that we'll see, and that would be an intelligent function. And I believe it's true to an extent. No, I'd say it's true. I just view them differently because I'm coming from a spiritual and science place, where it sounds like some in science are coming from an adversary to God, trying to explain away God, which is impossible. I mean, they can never do so correctly. They can do so incorrectly and fool, uneducated, low information atheists maybe, but those people are just turning science into a religion, and the scientist into God, essentially. But that's not how it works. God is in everything. So the building blocks, so let's say that the building blocks, for the sake of being seen, let's say that they do form together, like in the night sky, so they can be photographed for future reference, as in now. Because I've looked at them and tried to find clear delineations in the, because sometimes there's like a structure to them where it's like a carousel, a circle, and like tubes connecting them to the next level and the next circle, like a carousel. I can't think of a better example. Leaning Tower of Pisa, you know, something like that. But I often can't find the clear where it's separate from everything else. But in one of the photographs I posted earlier today, in one of the huge photo dumps I did, which I do periodically, there's one where I say, where it's a photograph of a post I did, and the night before I was so tired of people criticizing my photos, and these weren't good, like great photos, these were like mediocre photos that I thought had worth and they didn't. And I went for a walk, and I remember this night well. I went for a walk and I said, God, if there's anything to this, if there's anything to all this, and this is all real, then I need a solid UFO to show up so I can take a picture of it to shut up the haters. And I was pissed. When I'm mad, I'll have a conversation with God that reflects how I feel. But you probably figured that out about me, huh? And the next day, I was out on the trampoline, and there was a craft up in the sky, moving slowly, and I took a few pictures, and even though I was zoomed in, it was pretty, I don't know how high up it was. I don't know how high. Without flying around or having a plane fly at like a designated height and repeating it at various heights and doing that to get familiar with the ranging, I couldn't guess on the height of the UFO that was here. But it was the middle of the day, early in the day, very bright sky, and I got a picture of it, and it looks kind of like a shell, you know. And if you look in the photos, or I can grab it and throw it in the comments, or post it with this, I guess. It's been a little difficult for me to keep my train of thought for long periods of time, especially when I'm way off script. Oh, building blocks, microtubules. So this was a manifestation during the day. We can call it a manifestation, or just that God and the universe, Mother Earth, and the goddess allowed for this special event of a daylight craft, because I was pretty sincerely fed up with trying to teach people without solid things to point at. It just was getting too difficult. So they allowed a craft, and as I was photographing the craft, a plane flew over my yard, like below, and right between, not right between, but like between where I was and the craft was. And I thought that was strange. I thought, okay, they see it, and they must know I see it. But we hold these truths to be self-evident, and we don't dwell on that. So the building blocks, the microtubule is just what you think it would be. It's like a little straw, or like bendy straws. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at a gate which has diamond shapes, and that's another layer of the building blocks. And within the diamond is the letter M. If you look at it, if you look at diamonds all interlocked, interlaced, or you know, the rhombus shape, which we call diamond. If you look at those designs, you'll start to see the layers of the fabric, the lattice work on which everything is based. And we're getting into pretty advanced science here. It says I got 4 people watching. I probably lost like 5 people Only 2. It looks like 2 took off. Appreciate the rest of you sticking around. So I'll go a little more advanced since 5 of you are still here. I'll appreciate you and go a little deeper than I wanted to. So the lattice work and the matrix on which everything moves and lives and exists and interacts, and how we move, is we move through those things. There was a guy, a scientist, I watched a video about him once, and I can't remember his name, but I recall what's necessary. And he said that everything is fractal. And they were like, no, 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 no. And he was like, yes, you are a fractal. I think it was a cartoon, a black and white one, maybe. And they're arguing about it. And he's like, no, you are all fractals. Yes, you are. And he was right in that everything is this lattice work. This lattice work is everywhere. When life or something that has substance, what we would call substance or matter, moves through that, then we're moving on that lattice work. It's like a train. The train tracks go everywhere. They go in all directions. I don't know how high they go for the physical body to interact with, because it requires all of the things which are at human living height. And even with tall buildings, we're talking about they're protected from the wind, because the wind that high can be pretty rugged. So we're essentially talking about the elements and situation within the first 10, 20 feet of Earth. That's where we are designed to be. And if you are up in the mountains, then you could say it's higher up. But if for the people who live there, you know, like the people who help be guides on when you're climbing into the mountains, those people are native there. They're acclimated to that. It's like right now, this is the first video I've made this year with the air conditioning on. If I don't have it 60 degrees, I'm like not feeling well at all. I have to have it at 60 degrees, and people don't understand. Like my family and friends, they don't understand it, you know, but I have a fan on me 24/7, and it's nice to have the air conditioning on, but we're from the land of the ice and snow, you know, like our ancestors, if you're European anyway, we are from the lands of ice and snow. It's that song by Led Zeppelin. But anyway, you understand my point, that about the microtubules, about the matrix, and when you're back to the microtubules and the building blocks. So when you're up on the mountain, it's foreign to you. It's harder for you to adapt. The people who live there, they're adapted to it. They're adapted to that spectrum of microtubules, and plus it's different elements because they're on mountains, and it's just there's different elements in different terrains. If you watch Lone Survivor, great movie, one of my favorites, love those guys, wish that had gone differently. It will in the future. But that movie shows the acclimation, and my suggestion to the military would be to set up colonies in terrains where you want to fight wars in the future. Just do it, you know, build something beautiful and defend it, and you'll acclimate to the terrain, and the terrain will forever be in your favor. Because if you have colonies, you can, you know, move people in and out to the different terrains so that they're ready for all conditions. Okay, fundamental errors in science, went over that. building blocks, microtubules. The microtubules are pretty important, and she's going to share some information on some photographs that she has, particularly of that. And maybe I will too, but they're at night. Like, I photograph them at night. She's more of the light, and I'm more the night, you know? So she's got nice ones that show the rainbows. And for a while, when she was sending me pictures, and I got a pretty open mind, but I don't know. It was just difficult for me to see the light like that. I'm kind of averse to the sun. Aether grain dots. So the ether is like the fifth element or the sixth element or whatever, and it's basically just something which we can debate whether or not they've figured out what it is, but there's so many other elements which are at play in everything we do in our daily life that people don't know about, like the periodic table. We don't really learn that in school anymore, but there's some interesting stuff in there. The cosmic background radiation is ties into the building blocks and the formula and the 2D in science. They're tying it together. But the best example of the cosmic radiation that I have, well, first, like, if there's an element or there's something that exists, then there's going to be something that exists that can eat it, because that's the food cycle, you know, the nature of life. You know, life feeds on life. It's necessary for life. So if something exists, then something will exist that can eat it. And there was a picture at Fukushima where they stuck a camera down there into the horrible disaster area, like right in the heart of it. And I analyzed the picture, and, you know, could say it was my eyes playing tricks on me, because it wasn't anything I'd seen before. But it looked like it was alive, or like there was something that could eat it. And what they should do is find something that can eat it and put that in there so it can eat that disgusting mess they made. So then she was talking about, when we were talking about ether, she was talking about green dots. And I thought of the green light in the photograph I shared earlier today, which was a UFO. Oh yeah, so the cosmic background radiation, sorry. So when the SpaceX launch failed back in September of 2016, I think, I was one of the first people to adamantly say that the thing which did that was a UFO or a craft and not a bird, and had a pissing contest with a guy about that, apparently, the media people. And it turns out that I was wrong. The guy had figured it out before me and just worded it the exact same way. So I apologize for that. But in the background, when I say background, I mean in the picture, and I'll share the picture. I don't share it often because what I was able to see by analyzing this was beings, giants, which are only visible under the circumstances in which I photographed them, or in which that happened. And it's funny, I keep looking at the count to see how many people are watching. There we go. So someone just took off. That's fine. But the funny thing is, I go on forever, and people get bored and wander off. But I'm telling you guys about giants that live in parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that you're not going to hear about anywhere else. So if you have to listen to me stumble and forget because I'm trying to remember years of bizarre things, like, yeah, you probably got better things to do, but you're not going to learn this anywhere else. So a little bit of patience, considering my brain is chock full, would be like appreciated. I'd like that. So, and I'll post the picture for you again, even though I've posted it before. And these guys are taller than the launch pad. I don't know how tall. Taller than the rocket, taller than all that. And they're huge. And I posted the pictures and, you know, was all like, I found these guys. But these guys are smart. Yeah, people get distracted. I know, Ray. I do too. More than most, I think. It's really just that I ramble that bothers people, but you know, if you're mining for gold, you got to go through some sand. So I'm going to give you some sand because I'm doing my best. So these beings, giants, I'll post a picture. So a couple days later after this, after, you know, the arguing with other people about whether it was a bird or a UFO, and even some popular channels on YouTube who, as soon as I saw this, I knew that they were either compromised or they weren't authentic to begin with, because they said it was a bird. And I was horrified. But I understand why, because that would just increase the fear aspect of ufology. But if the To the Stars Academy is trying to like make UFOs adversarial, then why wouldn't they, you know, like why wouldn't they embrace it? I guess because they can't control it. It's confusing, you know. This To the Stars Academy needs to present some information. Or hire me and I'll do it. So after the arguing was done, I was laying in bed, and you know, I was laying down, and one of the guys from the picture, one of these giants, was right in front of me, got right in my face, and was just chilling there. And I don't remember the full sequence, but I realized that I had discovered new life and had assumed that they were unaware of this, but they're aware of everything. I guarantee you they're aware of everything. Everything. Did I stress that enough? They're aware of everything. So the next day, I guess, or maybe that night, I invited them over. I said, okay, because they're giant. They were enormous. So I said, okay, you guys are welcome to come over. Just, you know, we got to stay at the bottom 2 floors of the house, so however you want to handle it. And I was in this room here, and they came in, and all I can tell you for certain is that I cried for like 3.5 hours on the floor. It was, you could say it was pathetic, but the amount of energy that beings have, that nature has, and those are just elements of God. Those are just aspects of God. The amount of energy that is just stunning. It's astonishing. Astonishing. So that's your little lesson about cosmic background radiation, is that in the right circumstances, you can see life forms, beings that you couldn't see otherwise. And I do add the word of caution not to take, I always say this because I'm protective, and I'm protective of you guys too, but don't take the pictures lightly, and don't take my suggestion lightly to not interact, particularly with the ones in that picture. I contacted them once after that first day. After that, the second day, the second visit, and it's not a good idea. That's all I need to say. Just trust me on that. The ether and the green dots. So that light that was on that UFO, which is also on Hangar 10 series season 2 on the History Channel, Hangar 10. The second season, like the 8th or 9th or 10th episode, the one about Vietnam and Korean War. In Korea, American forces were engaged by, well, they weren't engaged by, a UFO was over their head. One of the Rangers shot at it, and it was at the top of a hill. The UFO was at the top of the hill. The Chinese were at the bottom, and the American soldiers were in the middle fighting down the hill. One of them turned and shot at the UFO. The UFO zapped the guys, and they got sick. They got really sick for 4 days. They couldn't eat. They were a disaster. The Chinese were probably like, screw that, Either way, the troops couldn't move for 4 days. They were puking, they were sick, and finally reinforcements arrived and got them out of there. And it was the day after that photograph out front that I started watching Hangar 10. Hangar 10. And when I saw that, I was like, holy crap. That's exactly what's in the photograph of what... It's exactly what I photographed in front of my house. So that's when I said, if you see a UFO, do not engage. Because, well, if you watch the series, you can learn more, but it's just a bad idea. Really, really, really wretched, horrible idea. And no, there's not going to be cool new weapons that can do it. It's just a bad idea. They're part of nature too. Higher nature, probably. So, she says ether is green dots. So, in the photograph, the light is green. And it looks like it's reflecting off the sun, which is all the more reason that you shouldn't mess with it. Because the sun working with nature, forming a craft which can direct ether in multiple directions, away and towards itself at the same time. Pretty complicated process, sounds like. I'd like to see them try to replicate it, but I wouldn't like to see them try to apply it to anything, because that's bad science. Alright, so that's ether and the green. I'll post that picture too, even though I posted it earlier today. I knew the God particle. So this is interesting. So the sky god, the one who trashed my yard, last March, I was thinking about God and religion and stuff, and I said, anew. There's no such thing as anew. And what about my business? The next day I went out for an hour and a half maybe, came back, and my yard had been trashed in a very intelligent way, very bizarre way. And actually I called the police, and I was like, something's up here, vandals. And they were like, it's the wind. And I was like, okay. But then I looked at the pictures and looked at the situation more and realized it was impossible. But Anu is the god of the sky. The god of the sky. But also, Anu is the name of the God particle. A-N-U. We will make the world anew, as I say. And we are. And we will. So this God particle is interesting. I'm sure that they'll find another one and give it an even cooler name, like the God Plus particle. I was gonna do MK Ultra, but this is a long video, and maybe I'll watch my own video and condense the information. But I've suffered like a bastard to get this information and be who I am. So if you want to learn from me, just find the time or pause it and come back, you know? Take a break and come back if that's what you need to do. But don't stick around and be pissed that I'm rambling. You know, this is literally, this is what I'm teaching you from. This one page. It's like 20 words. And then I teach. Human beings can't really withstand that energy. They would just collapse. Being exposed to the radiation or the energy. Ray, are you still there? If you're there, tell me what energy you're talking about. Ray Dre says, human beings really can't withstand that energy, they would just collapse. I've been exposed to energies like this. I've been exposed to energies like this so many times now. I don't even know how many times. Thousands. I've met probably, it would be fair to say 10,000, many thousands of beings that are not human in human form, and countless ships. I mean, we're talking small ships in my room, we're talking outside. Oh, the thing before the vomiting soldiers. Oh, that. Yeah, I know what those giants are made out of. But I don't see any. It's an uncontrollable emotion. Oh, I had absolutely no control. But there's so many elements and forces at play. So many that it's astonishing. And there's more than I can even really fathom. Like, I met so many, and I've seen so many different types of life on Earth, that from all over the place, that I remember meeting some one night and calling them the geeks. You know, that was my name for them. And I didn't take notes because I figured I'd see them again. But they were unique, and I didn't see them again. But E.T. and all that is a different topic, really, from this. And for the sake of not doing a 2-hour video, we'll leave it there. And if there's any main points that you liked, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a shorter video, which some people will say is better. Thank you for watching.